July slips away. The Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series comes to Pike County Speedway near Magnolia, Mississippi, just south of Macomb on I-55 going south. Hello, race fans. This is Trace Ali, along with Chris Larson, and we've got some of the hottest action in Mississippi and most of America, not just because of weather, but because of some of the competition we're about to see. In fact, last night's heat races produced some new people at the front, Chris.
Got a whole new front row, couple of visitors to the Hav-A-Tampa series. We've got Terry Phillips, who took the pole, and then Steve Russell beside him coming down from Pontotoc, Mississippi. These two guys know how to get around this track.
So we've got a split between some of those who are with the series all the time and some who aren't. And this split occurred by having 4 heat races. Heat race number 1 saw Wendell Wallace from Greenbrier, Arkansas on the pole, with Terry Phillips from the MLRA series racing with him on the outside. A quick start had all 8 cars blasting into the first turn and finding all kinds of turf and daylight between them until Ronnie Johnson began to put the push on Wendell Wallace. A sudden spurt from Wendell showed that he did have a setup that probably would have to be overcome by Ronnie Johnson's efforts. On the outside, the 75 car of Terry Phillips just kept it going and had no problems all night long, basically. After a caution, though, in the back of the pack, a restart found Terry leading the number 6M car once again and again. Ronnie Johnson, now in third, started to feel the heat of the 131 car from Curtis Gathis. Inside them, Houston, Texas, number 77, Robbie Starnes put on a show as he began to sprint to the low side of the racetrack and find a new position. Briefly in fourth, he slipped back as Curtis Gaddis found side-by-side room to get around him on the back straightaway. But again, as Robbie began to pursue the corner there in turn 3, he got a little sideways, and Curtis even more out of control as they both tried to not run over Ronnie Johnson. Ronnie Johnson holding third behind him and up ahead, still on the high groove, as you saw, the 75 car of Terry Phillips. Ronnie Johnson's car, with the new Masters build picked up in the West Plains period of racing with the Hav-A-Tampa series earlier in the season, has begun to come on strong as he moved himself into second place in points in the race prior to Pike County Speedway that you're now watching. But the battle between Wendell Wallace in 6 and 75 Terry Phillips captivated the crowd as the speed and the power began to emerge. But again, Terry Phillips had the setup and had the track position, holding off Wendell as they came out of turn 4, and Wendell, of course, sliding around trying to find one more position as they head to the white flag lap. The number 5 car on the outside now putting on a show, trying to stay outside Curtis Gaddis. One of those guys has to finish third to get into the final feature for the night. The number 77 car of Robbie Starnes, we talked about earlier from Houston, had fallen out on about lap 10. Here on the final run, though, is Terry Phillips as he takes the win in heat race 1, followed by Wendell Wallace. And, of course, Chattanooga, Tennessee's number 5, Ronnie Johnson. Heat race number 2 on the inside. Jerry Inman in the D7 car quickly has a battle on his hands as the G1 car of Steve Russell skirts around on top of turn 2, pulls ahead and gets ahead of Jerry, and immediately the action behind him gets hot and heavy as the 66V car of Johnny Burden from Greenbrier, Arkansas, puts a little tap on the left rear quarter panel of Jerry Inman's car. But Jerry, very fast on the high side, has already seen that groove work for other cars, goes right up there and stays with it. But the competition grows heated here as they come within inches of each other. Johnny Burden running the other GRT team race car, normally accompanied by Bill Fry, that we'll see later in another race. Jerry Inman slides a little to the outside. It looks like Johnny Burden is about to take the position away. And again, it looks like it's about to happen in turn 2. But again, Jerry Inman pulls back down, gets the speed, gets on the straightaway. And again, the extra power in that big motor pulls him ahead as Johnny Burden tries to finesse him just a little in each of the turns, and now begins to power after him a little bit harder. But Jerry Inman seems to have the line that's working best so far at Pike County Speedway on this particular track. G1's Steve Russell, driving the G1 Inc. and National Truck Lease car, is having smooth sailing of it, plenty of power and no battle, so of course nothing to really slow him down. But Jerry Inman and Johnny Burden in the D7 66B cars continue to tear after each other, and now coming up behind them is second in the rookie points, the number C28 car of Kenny Merchant out of Ruston, Louisiana. But the battle's basically over. G1 is going to run smoothly to the finish, take the win in heat race number 2, followed by Inman and Burden. Now, in heat race number 3, inside on the pole, it's the number 7 car of Tony Carden trying to hold off Clint Smith. The Stockbridge, Georgia native races in the Dunn Benson number 1 car to the outside, and out of the pack, here comes Freddie Smith in the 00, and a big battle between Johnny McCool in 41 and 53 Ray Cook. This is the hottest heat race so far, as you see all the cars kind of stacking up there in turn 4. Clint Smith has grabbed the lead for now, but Tony Carden, with a super good setup on almost every racetrack he covers, is going to hang right in there with him as this heat race begins to build momentum and speed. Behind them, there's lots of action going on, but Tony Carden slips back just a little, I guess for a moment kind of thinking over what his position will be as he can find a way around the racetrack, where obviously Clint is running the best groove. The higher side in the turns and on the back and front straightaway seems to be where all the action holds best for the car, and the speed stays up. Clint wiggling just a little bit on the first there, has 1 lap to go as he continues to lead smoothly through turns 1 and 2 down the back straightaway, accelerating up to 110 miles per hour, staying right on it, not lifting a bit as he goes into turn 3, looking very smooth. He's got the setup, and definitely this is going to carry him to the win as he'll streak on by the checkered flag, and followed by second place finisher Tony Carden from Greenbrier, Arkansas, and Baton Rouge, Louisiana's 00 Freddie Smith as they move into the feature. In heat race 4, the 222 car of Mr. Mike Boland stays low on the inside, holding off just for a moment Bill Fry, but Bill Fry advances quickly by staying to the high side. Bill's very astute. He watches the other races before him. He knows where the groove is and picks it up quickly. Battling in 4th position, David Gibson from Ashford, Arkansas, gets a little assist there from Rick Rickman in the 86 car. Both of those cars have got to overcome the 57 car if they're going to get into the feature. Bub McCool, though, rubs a little bit of fender there with the 222 car of Mike Boland. 2 local Mississippi racers who have had a few trips around this racetrack, but right now they're following one of the finest from the Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series, Bill Fry in the 66 car. Bill Fry admitted before the race he'd experimented a little bit less with his setup this time, kept a little more of the basic stuff that normally Johnny Verdon will run after he, the lead team driver for GRT race cars, usually experiments and finds it the best setup for both of them. And of course, Bill is also becoming more astute, as we said earlier, with figuring out the racetracks of the Hav-A-Tampa Race Series, which in July and August tend to get a little dry. As we all know, dirt track racing takes plenty of moisture. And of course, Bill Fry knows this well and makes a prime example of how to figure it out as he comes around turn 4 to take the checkered flag to win heat race 4, followed by Mike Boland and Bub McCool. We're at Pike County Speedway, where the Hav-A-Tampa Race Series is about to 100 laps of America's fastest late model series and its highest paying one, the Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series, here at Pike County Speedway, Mississippi. Let's take a look at the lineup, Chris. In row number 1, it's Terry Phillips driving the number 75 car from Springfield, Missouri. Next to him is G1 Steve Russell from Pontotoc, Mississippi, one of 9 Mississippians here tonight. In row 2, it's number 1, Clint Smith, Griffin, Georgia, who's just made a major motor change prior to the race. Number 66, Bill Fry from Greenbrier, Arkansas, on the outside of row 2.
Row 3 is made up of the 6M car of Wendell Wallace from Batesville, Arkansas. Beside him, Jerry Inman from Bruce, Mississippi, driving the D7. Row 4, number 7, Tony Carden from Greenbrier, Arkansas, and the number 222, Mike Boland from Cuba, Alabama.
Row 5, number 5, Ronnie Johnson from Chattanooga, number 66V, Johnny Burton next to him. Row 6, 00, Freddie Smith from Baton Rouge, and number 57J, Bub McCool from Vicksburg, Mississippi.
Row 7, number 131, Curtis Gaddis from Little Rock, Arkansas, and the C28 of Kenny Merchant from Ruston, Louisiana. Row 8, 53, Ray Cook from Murphy, North Carolina. Beside him, the G2 of David Gibson from Ashland, Arkansas.
And the green flag has flown as the Hav-A-Tampa Series gets underway for 100 laps, as 24 of America's fastest are fired from the very same gun, headed for the big target of the checkered flag at the end. So far, beautiful look at the cars as they come flying down the back straightaway. They've strung out rather quickly, Chris, but Terry Phillips is having no problem jumping right to the front, taking that pole position to its maximum position.
But there is a lot of action back in the field, a lot of accordion-type hitting. One guy will bump from the back, and he'll run into the back of the guy in front of him. But so far, everyone's managed to keep it heading straight.
Terry Phillips is the son of Larry Phillips, who's been NASCAR's Winston Racing Series national champion 3 separate times and has probably won more late model races than almost anyone in history. He's way out in front, but behind him in the G1 car, Steve Russell is trying to keep up there. Back and forth, it's number 66, Bill Fry, who's apparently making a little bit of action happen for himself so far. He's chasing Clint Smith. And Clint Smith, although with a heavier motor, he's gone to a much larger motor. He changed just before the race. His holding is on, and so far the setup is working for him.
And you can already see some damage on the number 1 car of Clint Smith, where Bill Fry managed to get into him on that start.
Bill Fry, though, does have someone sneaking up on the left there, another Arkansas, and that's the 6M Monday car, driven by Wendell Wallace, who's coming inside, pushing and punching just a little bit, chasing Bill, letting him know he's going to be right there on his left rear bumper for a while.
Wendell Wallace was the fast qualifier on Friday, said he just slipped a little bit in his heat race, and he had to finish second.
there's a good race coming already, though, from Freddie Smith. As you see on screen here, we've got him coming inside David Gibson in the G2 car. He's pulling right ahead, trying to make a move to get around David and pursue that possible expansion of his position. He has started back there a little bit further back than normally we see Freddie Smith. Number 5 car on your screen, that's Ronnie Johnson from Chattanooga, Tennessee. He is second in the points. He moved up by 4 points ahead of Clint Smith in last week's race number 22 at North Georgia Speedway. Down the front straightaway they come. Here's Clint Smith holding off not Johnny Burton, that's Bill Fry. Bill Fry still, though, has a sticky problem behind him, and that sticky problem is Wendell Wallace, who's running a GRT race car against the team car that Bill Fry drives for the entire company. Front straightaway gives you the speed. There's the look of these cars, these rocket ships, rocket cruisers that the Hav-A-Tampa Race Series is so famous for now across the United States.
And meanwhile, this whole pack you're watching, they're all chasing the 75 of Terry Phillips, who turned that last lap in 17.81 seconds. We're talking times better than original qualifying.
Clint Smith has the left rear quarter panel caved in, crumbled already. I assume that's from Bill Fry. We didn't quite catch that on camera, but there's no doubt about it. He is holding the setup that he needed. They had to take a wild guess, Chris, for the simple fact that when they changed the motor, they added a couple hundred more pounds to the entire setup of the car. But Clint looks great. He talked confidently about what he thought he might have in the race car earlier today when we spoke with him in the pits. I've never seen him more confident. He is definitely feeling like this car is the one car that he thinks he needs to win a race with right now.
Well, there was more activity around that car right before the race started than ants on an anthill over there. They were moving all around, and they were putting the engine in. They were cranking on the suspension. A lot of it, as you said, it's a wild guess. They just roll the dice. So far, it's really paying off.
And Clint is back to third in the points after being second for quite a while, but that's only by 4 points, and he's got to stay ahead tonight if he can of Ronnie Johnson from Chattanooga to get back to second. Front straightaway shows a lot of cars. Here comes Terry Phillips. He's maintained the lead all the way through so far in all the laps that you've seen on this particular telecast of the Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series from Pike County Speedway near Magnolia, Mississippi. Terry Phillips of Springfield, Missouri. A lot of people know him. He's an MLRA champion racing another series of late models, Midwestern Late Model Racing Association, and has been points leader many times over the last 2 years. A superb driver. He definitely gets some of that skill from his father. I have no doubt the genes do play a part in this.
Absolutely. And you see the leaders are now catching the lap traffic. Terry Phillips has already passed Stan Etheridge and is now trying to make a move on Wade Glass.
He's just made contact there. Exactly. I'm sorry I didn't quite catch who he made the contact with, but he definitely made contact. He's gone around, and Steve Russell's right in tow with him. He's going right along with him.
That was the 82 of Wade Glass, and as you said, Steve Russell took advantage of it and is now pulled up right on his bumper.
And the 23 car, driven by Stan Etheridge of Jackson, Mississippi, is also fighting to hold him back now. He's on the tail end of the race after starting approximately on row 11, and I believe that these other cars feel they're about ready to make the move to get around him. They've got to do a lot of this early, Chris, because this track is set up already quite a bit tonight, and if there's going to be any passing done quickly, it should be done probably within the first 20 to 25 laps.
Well, flagman Charlie Kraft kept giving the move over sign, the move over blue flag to Stan Etheridge, which he finally did and let the 2 leaders by.
Terry Phillips appears to be staying on the accelerator pretty much until he just hits the turn, the middle of the turn in turn 3. Then he comes off. Not going terribly deep in there with his speed, but he is accelerating beautifully. Apparently the setup is letting the sliding motion of the rear end of the car work very, very well when he begins to accelerate coming out of the turns. Looks a little slow going in, but boy, is he coming out of it fast.
Well, we talked to a lot of guys before the race, and they said we might see some too-wide racing, but so far it's been very low in that very black part of the track. Second groove may come before the race gets too far in, but right now, the fast way is the short way.
And, of course, that means most of the cars will stay there, but as the race stacks up a little and the cars begin to slow down behind the cars in front of them, they'll start to look around other parts of the racetrack and try to find a little bit different groove, a little more surface that might work just a little better for their particular setup. Terry Phillips continues to lead. He's in turn 3, heading for 4, and right in tow with him is Pontotoc, Mississippi's G1 Inc. team car. That of Steve Russell driving right there. We have 22 laps in the books now as the Hav-A-Tampa Series flies flawlessly around the racetrack. No caution so far. We shouldn't say that, but let's hope we're not hurting anybody's feelings or causing a jinx. We have some cars sliding around a little bit out there. The speed shot on the front straightaway looking a little empty, but the speed is is really running quickly there. As you can see, we're probably exceeding already about 110 miles an hour on some of those Speedway or straight Speedway shots. Clint Smith out there in the car, number 1, of course, still in the Dunn Benson Ford car, trying to hold off Bill Fry. And so far, he's done a good job of it. About 23, 24 laps in the books, and he's managed to hold on to that position. We have a car out in the back straightaway who has just lost a front snout. We'll get the camera to it here in a minute. The caution flag has flown. We'll try to get a look at it. It's Curtis Gaddis of Little Rock, Arkansas, in car number 131. Kind of a tough break there. He definitely found a big chunk of real estate out there with the front end of his car. I'm not quite sure what happened. We just caught it out of the corner of our eye there. But he suddenly found himself throwing a lot of dirt up in the air as he hit that berm out there and just absolutely messed up a big chunk of the front end there. We're going to take a short break here. We'll be back in a moment with more of the action. 25 laps in the books as we continue here with the Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series at Pike County Speedway. Stay with us. Plenty of action still ahead. Bring us back here at Pike County Speedway with the next 75 laps of the Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series, already off to a magnificently fast start. Terry Phillips has led every step of the way, and the top 6 are still the top 6, Chris.
We had no motion until you got back to about the 7th position, and Mike Bolin in the 222 managed to get around a couple of cars. Behind him, Johnny Verdon in the 66V.
And we're back underway as Terry Phillips leads the stream of field of cars. Here they go. Super speed down the back straightaway. We're looking at Steve Russell from Pontotoc, Mississippi. His car has been extremely strong. Has been flying through most of the turns, staying in pretty much right on the heels, following almost exactly the same line as Terry Phillips. You see on your screen going in and around turn 1, down turn 2, now into the back straightaway, leading into turn 3. He's not running very deep, as I said earlier. He is letting off pretty much as he gets to turn 3, but Steve Russell in the G1 car is doing extremely well. He's staying right. In fact, now he's starting to make a motion to go inside him just a little bit. Perhaps there'll be a little shift here. The tires have cooled down, Chris. Now we've got a few changes going on.
Well, Steve Russell is handling very well through the turns. That seems to be where he's making up the ground. As soon as they hit the straightaways again, Terry Phillips pulls out in the lead.
And as you can see, that speed is at least 110 miles an hour or more on those front straightaways. Steve Russell's doing a very good job of reeling in the number 75 car of Terry Phillips, which suddenly slows down because we've got a caution flag.
Freddie Smith has pulled off into the pit road area.
On that restart, we apparently had some problems for Freddie Smith. He's over there, and the crew's already working away on the front. They're messing with something. Could be a piece of metal or front part of the car. I'm not quite sure. Freddie Smith started 10th tonight. He has basically maintained that position.
They are taking the hood off,
Trey, so they're going
to go take a serious look at that one.
Terry Phillips is set to raise havoc as he restarts the field here. And right on his tail, G1 Steve Russell looks like he's about ready to turn this car into a faster bullet than anyone else. We now have 21 cars on the fly once again as the Hav-A-Tampa Race Series gets underway. Flying down the back straightaway, and a re-entry out in turn 3 of Curtis Gaddis. We now have 22 cars back on the field. Freddie Smith in the 00 car has gone out with apparently a bent tie rod. They will be trying to get him back to the race. But the leaders are still the top 6 cars that started out here earlier today, Chris.
That's right. Phillips is still leading, and again, his horsepower on the straightaways has kept him out in front of the G1 of Steve Russell. Clint Smith, he's the one we've kept our eye on because of that motor change, but he's still, the car's working very well. He's getting good bite in the turn, and he's managed to keep it ahead of Bill Fry. And those guys really haven't changed much. They banged on each other a little bit, but no positions have changed.
With the track set up the way it is, pretty much the same groove as we referred to earlier is being followed. I don't see anyone really having to fight too much in the turns. Everyone looks really smooth going through there, but everybody's playing it a little bit safe right now, running that groove as it's set up, including Bill Fry, you see here on your screen. Partly because this is the fastest way around the racetrack right now, and there's still more than half of a race ahead to go through and try to make this happen for a number of cars that think that they're in the running tonight to win this race. Any one of the top 5 or 6 could possibly, potentially, be our winner here tonight. We're looking for yet another winner. There have been 9 different winners so far this season in the Hav-A-Tampa Race Series.
Steve Russell's got to be thinking to himself, if he can hold on to Terry Phillips's bumper, Phillips is quickly coming up on more lap traffic in the 131 of Curtis Gaddis, and that may slow him down enough to give these guys a shot to get around him.
That could be if Curtis does maintain his momentum on that same spot. We're looking at the number 6 car, Wendell Wallace. Wendell is moving up just a little bit, apparently. I think he's trying to make a change. Tonight, we're looking at a race full of people from Mississippi. We got 9 of them there, 6 from Arkansas, 3 from, that's 3 from Louisiana, 1 each from Alabama, Tennessee, North Carolina, and Georgia, as the Hav-A-Tampa series continues to expand and include people from all over the United States in its series. The highest paying race series in America for dirt track late models, and definitely its fastest. The competition speeding around the racetrack. We're starting to see a little more dust in the air. Part of the fun, of course, with dirt track racing, but we're going to see some continued battles here. The number 222 car is being picked on a little bit from behind now as Bill Fry starts to move just a little bit behind him there.
That 222 is Mike Boland, the driver from Cuba, Alabama, and he's trying to hold his position and not lose any more ground. That actually, the car behind him traces the 66V. That's Johnny Burke.
I'm sorry,
looks an awful lot like Bill Fry's car, but Bill is still running up with the leader.
Common confusion among all of us on the announcing staff here because of the simple fact both cars are built by GRT race cars in the shop. They're considered house cars, and Joe Garrison has, at this point, I think the majority of the cars, GRT race cars, in this particular race tonight. Ronnie Johnson from Chattanooga comes around turn 4 down the front straightaway, still maintaining his position and not losing any ground. Apparently, he is trying to keep himself in the same level of momentum that he's talked about earlier. As we watch the Hav-A-Tampa Series race, the 100 laps here, and now we've burned it down by 40 laps as we continue to race towards midpoint, and we've got still pretty much a solid race out there with 75 and G1. Of course, that's Terry Phillips from Springfield, Missouri. Behind him, Clint Smith, Bill Fry, and the others that have started basically in the top 6. We're going to start to look back on the field and see some of the other battles here as we go back just a little bit. There's Terry Phillips still leading and has led every single lap so far. 42 laps under the books. C28 there, Kenny Merchant. He is currently number 2 in the Hurt Transmission Weight On Racing Rookie Points Series points at this point in the race, the season. And he's doing an extremely good job every single week since, I think about 6 weeks ago. He's begun to develop a little more momentum in the car. We keep using that word, but that's really what it's about. You've got to get more and more pieces to fit. You've got to get more and more speed to work a certain way. And that seems to be what's happening with the Kenny Merchant team as they continue to go a little bit faster and a little more sure-footedly around the racetrack.
We've got a spin in turn 1 between 1 and 2. The 23 car of Curtis Wooten. That car has been loose. He's having a lot of trouble controlling it on the last several laps. The car has come to rest against the guardrail. And of course, flagman Charlie Kraft has brought out the yellow flag.
That puts us just slightly before halfway in the race. We're going to take another break. We'll be back in a moment. It looks like his car is fine. We'll get the cars lined up, get the tires cooled down just a little, get them all set to go, and go racing again here as we continue with Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series right here on Sports South. Stay with us.
Looking for another good race here at Pike County, but one good thing, you should leave here having cracked the top 10. Now that says a lot for a young team without a big sponsorship. How have you managed to do that this season?
Well, we've just tried to show up every week and do the best we could. We'll be glad to get in the top 10.
What do you figure that your team's going to have to do now that you're in the top 10 to hang on to that for the rest of the season? An awful lot of tough competition here.
Yeah, Hav-A-Tampa's got more competition than probably any other series. We feel like we got to finish races. That's what's kept us out of it this long, is not being able to finish. So we got to get the finishes in. You know, even if it's not a top 10, just as long as you finish, that's the main thing.
But finishing near the top 10 has become a reality for Ray Cook and his 2-man crew. And though they're seriously underfunded, they have cracked the top 10 of the richest paying and fastest dirt track late model series in America. Terry Phillips has led all 44 laps as the Hav-A-Tampa race series has gotten underway with super speeds and super spectacular passes on a couple of occasions so far, mostly towards the back of the field. They're about to run the green flag. Here we go. The restart of the race is underway here on Sports South as we watch them fly down the front straightaway, now around the turns. Terry Phillips again, once his tires cool down, doesn't seem to have any trouble pulling away. Plenty of power to go down the straightaways. Stays just enough ahead in the turns that Steve Russell can't quite make anything change on him. Here comes the entire field through on turn 4. A good look at all the speed and all the cars that are racing here tonight. Still with 22 cars in the race after losing a couple of other prominent positions and people, including Freddie Smith from Baton Rouge in the 00 car, who went out with a bent tie rod and apparently has not returned. Clint Smith changed the motor and has still stayed in the race, even with the added weight. One car has pulled off the track. Jerry Inman's having problems. He's getting pushed around. Johnny Burton's on the inside, battling hard with the 222 car. I believe that's is that Johnny Stokes?
No, it's Mike Boland.
I'm sorry, Mike Boland. Excuse me, Mike Boland. Mike Boland almost got into him there, and that was quite a bit.
You can see the damage on the side of the 66V.
So there was actual contact. We did have contact. Well, we thought so. Johnny Burton's as tough as nails. There's no one else that will run probably any harder than this guy will. He drives one of the two 66 team cars from GRT and is out of Russellville, Arkansas. Johnny's a competitor all the way.
Well, as long as we stay in a narrow groove like this, that's how you got to make your passes. You're going to have to open up the hole yourself and get on by.
It's going to be a little rough and tumble, no question about it. Johnny Burton just demonstrated how it works. Hopefully, we're not going to cause any accidents. Now
he's working on Inman right in front of him in the D7. Again, trying to open the door and find some room to pick up another notch.
Jerry Inman in the D7 car from Bruce, Mississippi, started 5th. He slipped back to 6th. In fact, he got passed back around lap 37 by Wendell Wallace. And at this point, we've hit the halfway point. There goes Jerry Inman still fighting with Johnny Burton right on his tail. Johnny's making sure that the D7 car of Jerry Inman is not going to slow down any, because if he does, again, he'll put a chunk of metal right on the side there, give him a little push, and go right on by. 75 is Terry Phillips from Springfield in Missouri, and he's still holding off G1 of Steve Russell and doing a great job of it. I don't think it's necessarily a matter of driving wide on the racetrack. I think it's just simply that Terry Phillips has got the car that's got all the sprint you want in a car, basically flying down the back straightaway.
Well, Trace, as strong as his car has been, it's kind of hard to say, but right before that last caution, that caution probably was a break for the 75 car, because the way the scenario has been playing out, when the leaders get around to the lap traffic, they seem to have more trouble getting around in the turns, and that is when the G1 of Steve Russell is making his move and getting under the quarter panel. So as soon as they get back up to some lap traffic, that may be where Steve Russell has to make his move.
What we've tried to figure out, though, watching Steve Russell in the G1 car, is whether or not he's been able to work his setup the way he planned to from the start of the race. If the racetrack is working the way they planned for it, they might have stayed right with what they thought they had at the beginning, but yet they might have found themselves still a little outside the mark, just a little bit. Terry Phillips, though, has had no problem. He's been able to stay right with the setup apparently he told us about earlier in an interview, and it's working beautifully. I don't think there's any question that that's the car to beat right now, and as long as it holds out, he's going to be very, very hard to catch.
Well, when you're the leader on a one-groove track, to get around him, you've got to make a mistake. So far, he has not made any mistakes.
Steve Russell staying very smooth, though, right in there with him, and not having to slide too much through those turns. As I said earlier, it's unusual. In dirt track late model racing, there's a lot of sliding on the outside, with the right side of the car always constantly kind of spinning and slipping away from you as you go through these turns. But looking very smooth, as you see right there. Steve Russell runs that car very nicely down the turns and into the back straightaway, getting that speed right up again and not letting Terry Phillips get too much further ahead. Another battle out there on the field, of course, is the number 1 car of Clint Smith from Griffin, Georgia. Just saw a piece of that there. And it looks like Bill Fry's starting to challenge him just a little bit. Bill still in 4th after starting 4th. Behind him, Wendell Wallace from Batesville, Arkansas, is running 5th after starting 6th. And back behind him is Jerry Inman in the D7 car, who's now beginning to have his problems. He tries to hold off the 66 car of Johnny Burton. That 1-2 punch of the 66 car is something we've seen in several other races. Bill Fry won it at Kingsport, Tennessee. He's looking for another win, and who knows, this could be the night. There's Ronnie Johnson.
Well, you were talking about cars hanging it out and sliding through the turns. Right now, the 266 cars are the only ones that really seem to be, as we say, dirt tracking it through there. They are working very hard. Bill Fry and Johnny Burton both are hanging it all out, trying to pick up some space.
Vicksburg, Mississippi's Buck McCool in 57J car. They're challenging Ronnie Johnson just a little bit, trying to maybe make him think about things a little differently. There's Clint Smith going inside now. He's got Bill Fry right on his tail as they go inside the 21 car there. They're making it look very, very close out there. That's Ricky Idom from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And Ricky's been kind of hanging back. I don't think he's really made too much progress in the race. But then that's not to take anything away from his effort, because not too many other cars have changed positions since the race began.
Well, Item is very loose. He's having trouble in all the turns, and he may be our next caution if he doesn't pull it back in.
And I don't think he's been lapped yet, but he's definitely in a position to possibly have that happen to him. Bill Fry sticks it inside again. This time he gets a little piece, I think, of the left rear quarter panel on the number 1 car with Clint Smith. The Dunn Benson car is looking very strong, but I tell you what, Bill Fry is also very strong. Something tells me he's got a little more in that car than he might have let on up to this point, and he's just looking for the right moment to make the attack, to get that extra little sprint action, and there he goes again, right on the tail, as you can see. Watch him closely here as he stays right with Clint Smith. Clint's got quite a battle on his hands. We've got 65 laps already gone, and the Hav-A-Tampa Series is still blazing away around the turns here at Pike County Speedway near Magnolia, Mississippi, just down the road from Macomb, as they say. Terry Phillips still in the lead there, Chris.
Terry Phillips has been the class of the field. Everybody's hanging with him, but again, unless he makes a mistake here, doesn't look like this track's going to go to a second groove. You got to get around him. You may have to use the old chrome horn, but so far, no one's been close enough. Steve Russell has gotten up under him a couple times, but not even close enough to give him a good bump.
The strategy in this kind of race for the car following the leader, like Steve Russell is doing, is hang in there just right, just long enough, save the tires for as long as you can, so that when you get down to those last 10 laps, you've got something extra to come after him with, and hope that at this point that the lead car, the number 75 car in this case with Terry Phillips, has managed to burn off a little more tire, trying to maintain that lead so smoothly.
Well, they've got their sights set on the 53 of Ray Cook now. That may be the lap traffic to slow him up a little bit, and Steve Russell may have another shot to get by.
Well, the battles have pretty much turned into pairs here. The 222 car there flying by. It's a good-looking car. That car looked so strong last night. I believe he had the second fastest qualifying time in the heat races, as we commented earlier. That's Mike Bolin from Cuba, Alabama. Our only Alabaman here tonight, and definitely a great-looking race car. There's no question this young man is going to be involved in the Hav-A-Tampa Series racing and become a factor. You can tell the way he takes the turns. He knows how to run this race car, and he's apparently learning a lot about the setups and doing very well from what we've heard in recent races as well. 75 laps burned away. We've got 25 to go, Chris. This race is going fast. Nice and smooth all the way so far as the Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series, the fastest dirt racing series for late models in America, blasts around here at Pike County Speedway.
We've got caution on the Speedway. The 53 car of Ray Cook went high in the turn as the leaders were going by, and he has come to a stop at the exit of turn 2 over by the pit entrance.
It's Ray Cook. Ray Cook, the young man we talked about earlier, who's got a chance to crack the top 10 for the first time, pulling off out there in turn 2, heading to the infield. We don't know what it is yet. We'll talk with the Hav-A-Tampa Series, find out for you, and get back to you in a moment as we continue with our coverage here of the Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series in Mississippi. Stay with us. 22 laps to decide it all. Field day, so to speak, and enjoying his role so far as leader of all 70 laps of this Hav-A-Tampa Series race. As they line them up and get set to go, this could be the start, and it's out. Flagman Mr. Jerry Kraft has them on the run again, and there they go. And again, looking just the same as he has 70 laps before. Springfield, Missouri's Terry Phillips is absolutely flying in his rocket cruiser, and another lap is in the books. There he goes, super speeds of all the cars flying by you. Beautiful, beautiful look at how fast these cars really are. You just can't appreciate it until you get that close to them.
Race probably the biggest move we've got right now. On the restart, Kenny Merchant has moved into the 10th position. He's come all the way from 14th at the beginning of the race.
That is probably the most positions picked up, and we'll give him a shot too at a couple other awards that we're working on in the Hav-A-Tampa Race Series. Something is sticking out of the top of one of the cars that went flying down there. I believe it's the C28 car of Kenny Merchant.
That is Kenny Merchant. He came by. It looks like the C-pillar on that car, the one right behind the driver. It's very thin on this type of car, and it looks like it's just popped up from the bottom. It's hanging up. Looks like a nice antenna. He may be listening to the radio there.
There he is. That could be, it could be a car radio. You never know. That's Kenny Merchant from Ruston, Louisiana. Definitely one of the most outstanding young men in this series, and just a delight to talk to and watch him race. He's a competitor, and he doesn't mess around. He's as serious as they come, and he doesn't talk trash, as they say in sports business. He just gets out there and competes and does a great job. Currently second, as we said, in the Burt Transmission Weight-On Racing Rookie Points of the Year. Top 5, here we go. Let's take a look now at Terry Phillips in the 75 car. Again, no apparent problems for this gentleman. He's looking great. Steve Russell in second behind him. There's Griffin, Georgia's Clint Smith, number 1, and third place, and fourth right on the tail end, giving a little bit of a push there and getting himself a little bit out of shape was the number 66 car, Bill Fry, still holding on to fourth, however.
Bill Fry has done that twice in the last few laps. He'll get right up behind him, put a little tap to him, and he'll get himself a little loose, and he'll have to drop back, make another run. I think right now he's faster than Clint Smith, but he can't figure out the best way to get around him.
And he goes sideways out in the turn. Bill Fry just had the worst approach to that turn I've seen him take all night. I don't believe this. Well, we were just trying to talk about what he was talking about earlier today, about how he'd found so many things right for the car. Doesn't look like any damage out there, Chris, but there's definitely probably a little hurt pride.
Well, when he was making his last run at Clint Smith, he let Wendell Wallace get up underneath him, and those guys went into the turn, tried to make it a 2-wide track, and there was just no room for it. Something had to give. Unfortunately, it was Bill Fry, and he spins the thing around.
Got some damage out there. We're looking a little bit at the 6M car while we talk here.
I wonder where that came from, Trace.
Yeah, I wonder where that came from exactly.
Seems to be a little confusion as to who's going to restart this in that position between he and Bill Fry. They keep dicing back and forth, waiting for the Hav-A-Tampa guys to tell them where they need to restart.
Well, while the officials look at them down there in turn 4, as you see the slow drift-by pattern here of the Hav-A-Tampa Race Series, both Bill Fry and Wendell Wallace have been inspected by Technical Inspector Jim Harrah down there. While we're looking at them, we'll take a short, quick break, talk to you about our wonderful sponsors who are bringing you this wonderful coverage tonight of the Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series from Pike County Speedway in Mississippi. And we'll be back in a moment to see can Terry Phillips continue to race ahead and possibly be the winner tonight of our $10,000 first place. Stay with us. Definitely the leader, and definitely not having too much trouble staying ahead. He's had the preferred groove all night long. He's racing well, and now has a little bit of a challenge coming after him. I should say a major challenge possibly coming after him from Clint Smith. Clint has been super fast. He has been a bullet around this racetrack, including last night's heat races, and right now it looks like he's got the control and the speed to make it and make up some of the time that needs to be made up to catch Terry Phillips. Now we'll begin to see if Terry Phillips has had the tire wear that we've suspected all along that might cause him to be a little bit catchable here towards the end, Chris.
Well, we know that Clint Smith, when he replaced the motor, put the bigger motor in, so he's going to have the horsepower to catch him on the straightaway. So Terry Phillips has got to handle well through the turns and keep his distance there, not let him get to him on the straightaway.
And Wendell Wallace is also looking very fast, even though see the front end flapping in the breeze.
We've got a caution. We've got 2 cars up in turn 2, one spun around. Let's get the numbers on that. Looks like the 66 car of Brian
Our camera will
Lesky.
take us out there, yeah.
That would be Brian Lesky, who's sitting backwards.
Leslie, yeah, that's Brian Leslie. Uh-huh. That's definitely Brian. Unfortunately, got a little tangled up there and got spun around on the racetrack. He was running very well. I don't know that he's made too many position changes tonight, but it's been very difficult to make too many changes tonight on any car out here. The most surprising thing to me tonight is the speeds have gotten faster and faster as this race has gone on. Pretty unusual when you consider last night we were in the 18+ seconds per lap range, and now Terry Phillips is burning it down closer to 17 as they restart the race on the front straightaway. You see the 18 remaining cars of the top 24 that started tonight battling for the gold, going for the $10,000 to finish up tonight. Jerry Inman having a little trouble back there, spinning and sliding just a little bit out of shape, and Tony Carden thinking for a moment he might have a shot at him in the 7 car. But up front, it's Terry Phillips all the way, just as it has been. 12 laps going now as he heads down around in lap 89. And behind him, Clint Smith from Griffin, Georgia. Still quite a bit of a rocket ship look to him and looking very, very fast. But does he have enough to get into the right groove? Brian Leslie, by the way, left the race earlier before the caution. He got black flagged by the Hav-A-Tampa officials for rough driving, trying to give some kind of a warning shot to the 131 car of Curtis Gassens. 28, Kenny Merchant out there in front of, looks like the 66V car. It is. That's Johnny Verdon. Johnny now putting the full court press on him. And here comes Tony Carden. He's trying to maintain the speed as those two sort of hook up in tandem and go a little bit faster, some out of fear, some out of desire to win, and whatever else might be happening. The adrenaline is flowing here, folks. Fast look on the front straightaway of the Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series late models. Some of the most classically built race cars in the world, and just going like Billy Heck down the racetrack tonight. Having a great race. This is getting faster and faster and a little more a little bit harder to follow because we've been trying to watch several parts of the racetrack. There is so much tipping and pushing and sliding, just a little very subtle maneuvering that's hard for everybody to see. But if you were here catching the action right now, you'd see the speed and understand what we're trying to keep up with. That's why we're kind of walking around in circles here a little bit, Chris.
And all that action back in the pack, but meanwhile, Mr. Terry Phillips just starts stretching it out. And with 5 laps to go, he is just pulling away.
Terry Phillips has got 5 laps to hit that big number of $10,000 with the Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series, and he's making it look so easy, and other cars behind are still trying to fight their way to the top. The laps are counting down very quickly now. We're down to the last 2.5 laps as Terry Phillips flashes down the back straightaway and into turn 3 and 4, maintaining the same line he's had all night long. He set the groove, and everybody's had to follow it every step of the way ever since the race began. And there he goes, still looking straight ahead at the finish line, and he can see around corners. Terry Phillips is becoming Superman as we watch this unfold right before our eyes and yours here on Sports South. The white flag comes out. Mr. Kraft says, "This is it, boys. Take it to the barn. Here they come." One more turn, and it's all over. Terry Phillips is flying down the back straightaway. Clint Smith is trying to make a move to get up a little closer, and Wendell Wallace has moved into third. Here they come. They're coming around. The checkered flag is out. It is Terry Phillips that will take the win here tonight at Pike County Speedway, followed by Clint Smith, now second in the points in the Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series, and Wendell Wallace takes third from Greenbrier, Arkansas. A big finish and a fantastically flawless super performance from the number 75 car, Springfield, Missouri's finest, Terry Phillips. A lot of happy folks in the Phillips family tonight, I'll bet, and I know Terry will be too. We'll talk with Terry in the winner's circle here in a moment when our coverage continues here on Sports South. Stay with us. Terry Phillips is your winner tonight. We'll be back in a moment.
We'll feature here at Pike County Speedway. Terry, you led from start to finish, and you take home $10,000 from the good folks at Hav-A-Tampa. How you feeling?
I'm feeling real good. I'm glad I got to start where I did, and the car's been good all weekend, and just that GRT chassis is just something else. I can't beat it.
We had motor trouble after the first hot lap session. My team got together, Jeremy Wilson and Jim Cabral. We snatched the motor out, got our spare motor, put her in, got it ready right in time for driver introduction. Car run super.
Again, congratulations to Terry Phillips, our winner tonight. Of course, Clint Smith coming in second. Behind them, it was Wendell Wallace. In fourth, Jerry Inman. And in fifth, Tony Carton. In sixth, it was Kenny Merchant. In seventh, Johnny Burton. Eighth was Ronnie Johnson. Ninth, Bub McCool. And in 10th, it was David Gibson. In positions 11 through 15, it was Rick Rickman, Ray Cook, Curtis Gaddis, Steve Russell, and Ricky Ida. In 16th, it was Wade Glass, followed by Mike Boland, Brian Leslie, Bill Fry, Chris Wooten, Freddie Smith, Johnny Stokes, Stan Etheridge, and David Burkhalter. Of course, don't forget, the Hav-A-Tampa Race Series is brought to you by Landrum Spring Service, covering the racing spring industry like no one else. By American Motorsports, dirt or asphalt, it's your warehouse for all your oval track racing needs. And by the Hav-A-Tampa Dirt Racing Series, rocking and roaring to a track near you and smoking to the finish. Your Pike County Speedway racing enjoyment, of course, is always more fun when you stay at the Holiday Inn Macomb with 141 rooms and 2 larger suites of comfort with swimming, restaurant, and sports bar. Located on exit 17 on I-55. The Hav-A-Tampa Racing Series is produced exclusively by Alley Sports Marketing. Copies of all Hav-A-Tampa Series television programs are available for $25, including shipping and handling. Send check or money order for each tape to Alley Sports Marketing, 9110 Alpine Trail, San Antonio, Texas, 78250. A personal thank you to Donnie and Brenda Smith, Pawpaw, and all the staff at Pike County Speedway for their hospitality for our Alley Sports crew. Thanks to Michael Swanner, General Manager of the Holiday Inn Macomb, our television on-site crew from CRI Inc., Scott, John, Stewart, Kevin, Charlie, and Doug Fisher. The great work of our producing editor, Glenn Duchesne, John Walker, our director, Jerry Albrecht, our race day operations director, and all the Hav-A-Tampa Series guys, Dave Roberts, Nick Masters, Jim Hara, Jimmy Mosteller, and Mike Swims. Great bunch of people. And thanks to you for watching our Hav-A-Tampa Race Series. We really enjoy doing this coverage for you, and we're really happy with all the comments we hear from you. For Chris Larson, this is Trace Alley. We'll see you soon.